Hey guys, what is good? Derek from Bomb Socks here with more Bomb Bites. We feast upon the words of Christ here. We do it one bite at a time. So I want to show you a couple of warning signs that maybe most people do not. Maybe there's some people who follow them. You know, when you see the sign no running, what do? Some of you are like, I run fast. No, don't run. You see the sign that says no trespassing? You don't trespass, right? So there's a reason why warning signs are brought up. We see them all over the place, especially in our world today of pandemic, where there's people that are, with masks. You stay 6 feet away from each other, social distance from one another, all of those things. Some people choose to ignore, some people choose to follow, but they are there for a reason by people who believe that they know what is right for us. And so with that in mind, I want to show you a warning sign in the book of Ether, and it is a huge one. In fact, it's something that sets the precedent for the way the people in Ether are for several chapters. So just to give you a little bit of context, this is right after what we just talked about yesterday, after that crazy barge ride, the 344-day crazy ride that got them to the promised land. And they settle in, they start establishing a society. Brother of Jared is getting old at this point. In fact, you go down, I think it's verse number 20, where it says people to gather together. The number of the sons and daughters of the brother of Jared were 20 and 2 souls. That's a good sized family. And the number of sons and daughters of Jared were 12, he having 4 sons. And so the people desired some things of the brother of Jared. Verse 22 says, it came to pass that the people desired them that they should anoint one of their sons to be a king over them. And now behold, this was grievous unto them. And the brother of Jared said unto them, surely this thing leadeth to captivity. Historically speaking, how has a king worked out? And this is another reason why the book of Ether is such another testimony of the Book of Mormon, because you look all the way back in the Book of Mormon. You look at kings, there's a few righteous ones. You got King Benjamin, who stands out, obviously, as a very righteous king. You got Mosiah, also righteous. But with all of that said, you also got King Noah, and you got a whole bunch of guys that are just not good. It's interesting, the footnotes right by where it says leadeth, right there, you click on it or you go to it, it takes you to 2 particular scriptures. Let me show you these scriptures. One of them is 1 Samuel 8, 10 through 18, that's in the Old Testament, and then Mosiah 29, verses 16 through 23. What I would like you to do is I want you to just divide and conquer as a family, or you can take it as an individual, as a couple, however you're reading this. I want you to go take these verses and historically see how having a king, what kind of an idea that was. So just go through those verses and we'll come back on the other side and see really how good of an idea that is. Okay, so as you read these verses, you probably saw very quickly that the main reason people want a king, particularly the people back in 1 Samuel, it says, make us a king so that we can be like all the nations. Now, historically speaking, trying to be like the rest of the world has been a bad idea. Whenever we, especially as members of the church, the members of the house of Israel, try to become like the world, there's no way you can be a peculiar people, which the whole message of the Old Testament is to raise a people that is different than the rest of the world. And they always wanted to just gravitate towards the world, which again, we're the same way. We keep wanting to go towards the world and do things the way the world wants us to do, rather than what the Lord wants us to do. And so, he even goes through in those verses like, look, you have yourself a king. He's going to take your men. He's going to take your daughters. He's going to take all your stuff. And it's like, nevertheless, we still want a king. And Mosiah 29 has a lot of references to 1 Samuel 8. That 1 Samuel 8 is a turning point in the history of the house of Israel. It really is. And so it's the same thing with the people of Jared. Same thing here. In fact, you can see at the end of chapter 6, has a son by the name of Pagag. And it says Pagag refused. This is verse 25. He refused to be the king. And anyway, they go through, and the brothers of Pagag, they wouldn't do it either. You go to all of the sons of Jared. You got a kid named Oriah. When I say kid, he's probably an older guy at this point. But he begins to reign. The people began to prosper and become exceedingly rich. And again, historically speaking, when are you reading in scriptures, when people get rich and they get prosperous, you're scared to read the next few verses, which is interesting because Oriah himself was a good dude. He says, verse 30, he walked humbly before the Lord. He remembered how great a things the Lord had done for his father, and also taught his people the great things the Lord had done for their fathers. So he's a good guy. But you go into chapter 7, and it talks about how, Uriah executed judgment and righteousness. His days were many. He had a lot of sons and daughters. In fact, 31 of them. Whew, Among them were 23 sons. That house probably smelled funny on occasion, right? You got 23 teenage boys. I don't know if they're all teenagers at once, but he begat a kid named Kib in his old age. Kib reigned, and Kib begat Korihor. Oh, gosh. Okay, historically speaking, the name Korihor has never been good, right? Do not name your kid Korihor, because in verse number 4, Korihor was 30 and 2 years old. He rebelled against his father, went into the land of Nehor. Also, Nehor, that's a bad place. Begat sons and daughters, became exceedingly fair. He drew away many people after him. When they gathered together, had an army, and the land of Moron, insert your favorite joke here, where the king dwelt, took him captive. They brought to pass the saying of the brother of Jared, that they would be brought into captivity. There is prophecy fulfilled by the brother of Jared. So the principle here is, when we reject the words of the prophets, quote, surely this thing leadeth into captivity. And so, a thing you could talk about as a family is how does rejecting the prophet bring a person into captivity? And maybe what are some of the biggest ways you are seeing our world today reject the prophet? Because that's what this is all about. The prophet himself, back in the time, the brother of Jared, he said, surely this thing leads to captivity. And they're just like, that's great, but we're still going to have a king. The people in the Old Testament did it. People in the Book of Mormon did it. So there's got to be a lesson here for us to make sure we listen to the words of the prophet. We follow the prophet because he knows the way. So tomorrow is kind of a part 2 of this. I want to introduce you to the game of good king, bad king. And we're going to show you over these chapters what happens with some of these good kings and these bad kings through the Jaredites. Anyway, hope that helps you guys out. You guys are great. Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.